Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
Nancy Lee Grahn has always been one of the most outspoken, passionate, and unapologetically honest stars in daytime television. For decades, she carried the role of Alexis Davis on ABC's General Hospital with a mixture of wit, vulnerability, strength, and charm that made her one of the most beloved characters in Port Charles. When she first joined the show in 1996, few could have predicted that she would become such a cornerstone of the soap opera, crafting storylines that not only entertained audiences but also sparked meaningful conversations about law, morality, family, and social issues. Grahn poured herself into the role, often blurring the line between the performer and the woman she played, because her voice was just as important to her off-screen as it was in the scripts she performed. Yet, after nearly 3 decades, whispers began to grow louder that her time on the show might be coming to an end. And while some actors leave soaps after natural contract expirations, story developments, or personal life decisions, this situation was far different. For Nancy Lee Grahn, the moment of reckoning reportedly came after a painful exchange with executive producer Valentini, who allegedly uttered 6 words that cut her deeper than she ever expected. Those 6 words, simple yet devastating, became the tipping point that led her to decide she could no longer remain at General Hospital. Grahn has never been one to shy away from confrontation or to mask her feelings when something wasn't right. Her reputation as a truth-teller in Hollywood, someone willing to call out hypocrisy or mistreatment, has made her both admired and controversial. For years, she balanced the reality of working in a system that often demanded silence with her personal conviction that silence enables harm. Fans who followed her on social media know that she is fearless when it comes to politics, activism, or behind-the-scenes commentary. But nothing prepared her fans for the revelation that she might be walking away from Alexis and from General Hospital altogether. To understand why those 6 words hit so hard, one has to look at the complex relationship between Grahn and Valentini, the producer who has overseen the soap since 2012. Valentini is known for running a tight ship, keeping storylines in motion and maintaining a strong grip on the direction of the show. Some actors thrive under his leadership, others clash, and in Grahn's case, the friction appears to have grown over time. Those who have worked closely with soap operas know how much of an actor's professional identity becomes tied to the character they portray. Nancy Lee Grahn wasn't just showing up to play Alexis, she was living with her. Fans saw Alexis as more than a character, they saw her as a reflection of real-life struggles. From her battle with alcoholism to her often tragic romantic choices, Alexis resonated with people who understood imperfection and resilience. Grahn frequently praised the audience for allowing her to bring such depth to the role, acknowledging that their loyalty gave her the strength to keep pushing for better stories and more authenticity. But while she gave everything to the show, the dynamic with Valentini reportedly began to erode. He was focused on ratings, pacing, and broader arcs, while she wanted substance, truth, and respect for the nuances of her character. It's not uncommon for actors and producers to disagree, but rarely does it reach a point where words spoken in a meeting or on a set can sever a working relationship entirely. And yet, that appears to be exactly what happened. The story that has circulated is that Valentini, in a moment of frustration, told Grahn 6 words that felt dismissive, belittling, and cruel. 6 words that weren't just about a scene or a storyline, but about her place on the show. For an actress who had given nearly 30 years of her life to General Hospital, the sting of those words was unbearable. She reportedly walked away from the conversation shaken, hurt, and unable to reconcile what had just been said with the years of commitment she had invested. To fans, the mystery of those words has become almost as captivating as any on-screen plot twist. People speculate, were they about her age? Her relevance? Her voice? Whatever they were, Grahn has implied that they were enough to make her realize she could no longer remain in an environment where her worth was not respected. And that is why, after so many years of bringing Alexis Davis to life, she made the heartbreaking choice to leave. Grahn's decision is not just about one moment or one conversation. It's about the accumulation of years of passion, frustration, triumphs, and battles behind the scenes. It is about an actress who has fought for women's voices in daytime, who has campaigned for social causes, who has elevated her role into something far bigger than just entertainment. To be dismissed with 6 words after all of that is, to her and to many fans, unthinkable. Her departure sends shockwaves not only through the General Hospital fandom but through the entire daytime community, because it raises bigger questions about how veteran performers are treated, how creative voices are valued, and how much weight one person's power can hold over another's career. Fans now face the difficult reality of imagining Port Charles without Alexis, and Grahn herself must face the bittersweet truth that while she may be leaving the role that defined her career, she is doing so with her integrity intact. That, in the end, may matter more to her than anything else. Nancy Lee Grahn sat in her dressing room, the faint hum of the studio lights filtering through the door. The space was a sanctuary of sorts, cluttered with mementos from nearly 3 decades on General Hospital. A framed photo of her daughter, Catherine Grace, sat on the vanity next to a well-worn script from her first episode as Alexis Davis in 1996. The air smelled of coffee and the floral perfume she'd worn since her days on Santa Barbara. She leaned back in her chair, staring at her reflection in the mirror, lines etched deeper now than when she first walked onto the Port Charles set. Her phone buzzed, but she ignored it. Her mind was elsewhere, replaying the conversation that had just shattered her world. Frank Valentini, the executive producer, had called her into his office earlier that morning. She'd expected a routine discussion, maybe about Alexis's next storyline or a scheduling tweak. Instead, his face was grim, his usual warmth replaced by a strained professionalism. He didn't waste time. "Nancy, we're writing Alexis off the show," he said, his voice steady but not unkind. 6 words. 6 words that landed like a punch, each one a bruise on her heart. She'd blinked, waiting for the rest, some explanation or softening follow-up, but none came. The silence that followed was louder than anything she'd ever heard on set. She'd managed a nod, her throat tight, and left his office without a word. Now, alone in her dressing room, the weight of those words settled in. Leaving General Hospital wasn't just losing a job, it was losing a piece of herself. Alexis Davis wasn't just a character, she was an extension of Nancy, a fierce, flawed, brilliant attorney who'd navigated mob bosses, love affairs, and family chaos with a sharp tongue and sharper mind. For 28 years, Nancy had poured her soul into Alexis, earning 2 daytime Emmys and a place in the hearts of fans who'd grown up watching her. And now, it was over. Nancy's journey to this moment began long before Port Charles. Born in Skokie, Illinois, on April 28, 1956, to a Jewish mother and Lutheran father, she grew up in a household where community theater was a family affair. Her first role was a pony in a local production of Oklahoma, a far cry from the courtroom drama she'd later dominate. As a teenager, she played Daisy Mae and Lil Abner at Niles North High School, opposite a young Greg Edelman, who'd go on to Broadway fame. Those early performances sparked something in her, a hunger for the stage, for stories that could move people. She studied acting at the University of Illinois and later with Sandy Meisner and Bill Epson in New York, honing a craft that blended raw emotion with disciplined precision. Her first big break came in 1978 as Beverly Wilkes on One Life to Live, a role that taught her the relentless pace of daytime television. But it was Santa Barbara in 1985 that made her a star. As Julia Wainwright Capwell, a headstrong lawyer, she captivated audiences with her chemistry with Lane Davies as Mason Capwell. Their Tracy Ann Hepburn dynamic earned her a Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in 1989. Off-screen, her brief romance with Davies added real-life sparks to their scenes, though creative differences eventually led to his departure. When Santa Barbara ended in 1993, Nancy was adrift, taking guest spots on shows like Murder One and Melrose Place, but her heart belonged to daytime. In 1996, she called General Hospital's then-head writer, Michelle Val Jean, and executive producer, Wendy Reich, with a bold pitch: "Do you guys want me?" They did. Alexis Davis was created for her, a character who arrived in Port Charles as a confident attorney, declaring herself better than good, the best. Fans embraced her immediately, and by 1997, Nancy was on contract, a mainstay of the show. Over the years, Alexis evolved from a sharp-tongued lawyer to a complex woman battling alcoholism, navigating toxic romances, and raising 3 daughters, Sam, Christina, and Molly. Her storylines tackled everything from mob violence to personal redemption, earning Nancy another Emmy in 2012 and nominations in 2000, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2011, and 2017. But it wasn't just the work that defined her time on General Hospital. The set was her second home, the cast and crew her extended family. She'd laughed with Maurice Benard, Sonny Corinthos, during late-night shoots, shared quiet moments with Jeannie Francis, Laura Spencer, between scenes, and mentored younger actors like Eden McCoy, Jocelyn Jacks. The fans, too, were part of it. Nancy cherished their letters, their tweets, their unwavering support through Alexis's highs and lows. She'd organized political events, like Daytime for Gore/Lieberman in 2000, and founded Daytime for Choice in 1988, using her platform to advocate for reproductive rights. Her outspokenness on politics, women's health, and social justice made her a lightning rod, but also a beacon for those who admired her courage. Yet, that same outspokenness had led to trouble. In recent years, Nancy's social media presence had stirred controversy. Her vocal criticism of political figures, particularly Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and her comments linking Los Angeles wildfires to political motives, had divided fans. Some praised her for speaking truth to power, others felt she'd crossed a line, politicizing tragedies in ways that alienated viewers. The backlash grew louder, and rumors swirled that ABC and Disney, protective of General Hospital's inclusive image, were growing wary. Sources suggested that Frank Valentini had been under pressure to address the issue, and Nancy's contract termination was the result. The 6 words she heard were the culmination of months of tension, a decision driven as much by her off-screen persona as by the show's narrative needs. Back in her dressing room, Nancy traced her fingers over a script page, the words blurring as tears welled up. She thought of Alexis's latest storyline, a gut-wrenching arc following the death of her daughter Sam, played by Kelly Monaco. Nancy had poured everything into those scenes, her grief as a mother so raw it left viewers in tears. Fans on Reddit called it Emmy-worthy, praising her ability to convey Alexis's numbness and heartbreak. But now, the show was planning to kill off Alexis, too, a tragic end to shake up the storyline and send shockwaves through Port Charles. Nancy understood the dramatic appeal, but it stung. She'd fought for Alexis to be more than a plot device, to be a woman who endured and evolved. To see her reduced to a sacrificial twist felt like a betrayal. She stood, pacing the small room. Her mind raced through the years, Alexis's battles with Sonny, her doomed romance with Julian Jerome, her struggle to protect her daughters. She thought of her own life, too. Raising Kate as a single mother had been her greatest challenge and joy. General Hospital had given her the stability to provide for her daughter, to send her to USC, to build a life she was proud of. Even during tough times, like her 2022 surgery for a benign cyst or her fiancé Richard Smith's battle with head and neck cancer in 2023, the show had supported her. Frank had adjusted schedules, accommodated her needs. So why now? Why these 6 words? The answer, she suspected, lay in the changing landscape of daytime television. Soaps were struggling to stay relevant in an era of streaming and short attention spans. General Hospital was under pressure to refresh its cast, to draw in younger viewers with new faces and edgier plots. Nancy, at 69, was one of the show's longest-serving actors, and her salary reflected that tenure. Writing off Alexis could free up budget for new talent, new stories. But it wasn't just economics. Her public persona, unapologetically liberal, fiercely vocal, had become a liability in an industry that prized neutrality to avoid alienating audiences. Nancy's phone buzzed again. This time, she glanced at it, a message from Kate, checking in. "You okay, Mom?" it read. Nancy smiled faintly. Kate was her anchor, her reason for everything. She typed back, "I'll be fine, sweetheart. Just processing." She set the phone down and looked at the photo of them together at Kate's high school graduation. Whatever came next, she'd face it for her daughter. She thought about her options. She could fight the decision, appeal to ABC or the fans, but that wasn't her style. She'd always been a realist, even when it hurt. She could return to theater, where she'd started, or pitch a new project, maybe a digital series like GH Now, which she'd co-written and produced in 2015. There were guest spots, too. Her credits on Castle and Seventh Heaven proved she could still land primetime roles. Or she could step back, focus on her charities, Smile Train, the Bonnie Dario Lung Cancer Foundation, the Center for Judicial Excellence. There was life beyond General Hospital, even if it felt impossible to imagine right now. the door creaked open and a production assistant poked her head in. "Nancy, they need you on set in 10. Nancy nodded, wiping her eyes. She had one more scene to shoot today, a confrontation between Alexis and Sonny, where she'd rail against his latest betrayal. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd play Alexis with every ounce of fire she had left, because that's what the fans deserved. That's what she deserved. As she walked to the soundstage, the familiar chaos of the set enveloped her, cameras rolling, crew members bustling, the scent of hairspray and coffee in the air. Maurice Bernard caught her eye and gave her a knowing nod. He'd been through his own battles with the show, his own moments of doubt. She squared her shoulders, channeling Alexis's strength. Whatever happened next, she'd leave Port Charles with her head high. The director called action, and Nancy stepped into Alexis's skin one more time. The lines flowed effortlessly, her voice sharp and steady. For those few minutes, she wasn't Nancy Lee Grahn, the actress facing an uncertain future. She was Alexis Davis, the best damn lawyer in Port Charles, fighting for her family, her truth, her place in the world. And when the director yelled cut, the crew applauded, not just for the take, but for her. She felt it, the love and respect she'd earned over 28 years. It wasn't enough to erase those 6 words, but it was enough to remind her who she was. As she left the set, Nancy made a decision. She wouldn't let this be the end of her story. She'd find new stages, new roles, new ways to tell stories that mattered. Alexis Davis might be written off, but Nancy Lee Grahn was far from finished. She'd survived worse, heartbreak, cancer scares, the grind of daytime TV. She'd survive this, too. And somewhere, in the back of her mind, she held on to a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Port Charles would call her back someday. Until then, she'd keep fighting, keep creating, keep being the woman who'd made Alexis unforgettable. For longtime viewers of General Hospital, the news of Nancy Lee Grahn's impending departure has stirred a mix of heartbreak, anger, and confusion. Alexis Davis is not just another character in Port Charles, she is the embodiment of layered storytelling that only comes from decades of development. Fans have watched her stumble and rise, fail and succeed, fight for her children, defend clients, wrestle with morality, and fall in and out of love with men who are often more destructive than nurturing. Through it all, Grahn played Alexis with a raw authenticity that made her relatable. Viewers often commented that when Alexis cried, they cried with her, because Grahn made it real. To think that all of this could end because of 6 careless words is devastating to people who have built daily routines around watching Alexis navigate her chaotic life. Soap operas thrive on continuity, on the comfort of familiar faces who anchor the story even as new characters come and go. For many, Alexis was that anchor. The thought of losing her feels like losing a piece of their own history, because soaps aren't just entertainment, they are long-running companions to people's lives. They run in the background of childhood homes, hospital waiting rooms, college dorms, and retirement communities. Alexis Davis has been there for all of it, and Nancy Lee Grahn has been the heartbeat of that presence. Behind the camera, however, the reality of soap opera production is far more cutthroat than many fans realize. Scripts are written rapidly, budgets are tight, and producers often have to make decisions that prioritize ratings over artistry. Actors, even those who have been on a show for decades, are sometimes treated as interchangeable pieces of a larger puzzle. For someone like Grahn, who has dedicated nearly 30 years of her professional life to a single role, hearing something dismissive from a producer she worked under was not just unprofessional, it was deeply personal. To her, it symbolized a lack of recognition for the years of sweat, creativity, and loyalty she had given. It's one thing to disagree over a storyline, it's another to feel like you are being erased from the very legacy you helped build. Reports suggest that Grahn left the encounter shaken and questioning whether her time at General Hospital had reached its natural conclusion, or whether it had been forced into one by the cruelty of words that could not be unsaid. The idea that 6 words could wield so much power may sound dramatic, but words have weight, especially in environments where relationships are built on trust. An actor gives their soul to a performance, entrusting producers and writers to shape stories that honor their work. When that trust is broken, the fracture is hard to repair. It appears that this is exactly what happened between Grahn and Valentini. Their working relationship, once professional if not always smooth, fractured beyond repair. And for Grahn, someone who has always championed respect, equality, and dignity, the choice became clear: stay and accept the disrespect, or leave and reclaim her self-worth. She chose the latter, even though it means letting go of a role that has defined her career and touched millions of lives. For her, the integrity of knowing she refused to be belittled outweighs the comfort of staying in a familiar but toxic environment. As the news spread among cast members and longtime fans, reactions were emotional and mixed. Some insiders have quietly admitted that while Valentini is effective at keeping the show alive in a challenging television landscape, his leadership style can come across as blunt, dismissive, and at times abrasive. That may work for some, but for others, it crosses lines that cannot be ignored. For Nancy Lee Grahn, those 6 words crossed that line. Fans, meanwhile, have taken to social media to express outrage at the thought of losing Alexis. Hashtags began trending, petitions circulated, and message boards filled with both anger toward Valentini and gratitude for Grahn's years of service. It's clear that whatever decision the show makes about how to write Alexis off, it will not come without controversy. Fans are already calling for a recast, but many insist that no one could ever replace Grahn in the role. After all, Alexis Davis was not just written on the page, she was crafted by the choices, inflections, and instincts of the actress who portrayed her. For the soap opera community, Grahn's exit highlights a larger conversation about how daytime veterans are treated. Unlike primetime or film actors who can move from project to project, soap stars often dedicate decades to one role, building not only a career but an identity around it. Their loyalty sustains the shows through changing times, yet when they reach a certain age or become outspoken, they sometimes find themselves pushed aside in favor of younger, newer talent. Grahn's situation feels like a painful example of this. While Valentini's words may not have been intended to drive her away, the impact cannot be dismissed. In some ways, her departure is a protest, not just against what was said to her, but against the broader culture of disposability in daytime television. Fans who have supported General Hospital for decades now feel torn between their love for the show and their loyalty to Grahn, and many are left wondering if this is the beginning of a downward spiral for the soap. For Grahn herself, the road ahead is uncertain but filled with possibility. She has always been more than Alexis Davis. Her career before General Hospital included award-winning work on other soaps, including Santa Barbara, where she played Julia Wainwright, and her talents extend beyond daytime. She is a seasoned actress with the ability to take on roles in primetime, film, or even stage. More importantly, she is an activist with a powerful voice and a strong following. It's possible that leaving General Hospital could open new doors for her, giving her the freedom to pursue projects that align with her values and her artistic vision. While fans may mourn the loss of Alexis, Grahn herself may ultimately find empowerment in this ending, using the pain of those 6 words as fuel for the next chapter of her career. The emotional aftermath of this decision has been layered, because while Grahn is hurt, she is also resolute. Friends close to her have shared that she is at peace with the decision, even though it was not easy. She has expressed gratitude for the fans who supported her through every twist of Alexis's life, acknowledging that without them, she could not have lasted as long as she did. For Grahn, the bond with her audience remains unshakable, even if the show itself faltered in honoring that bond. She knows that her legacy as Alexis Davis will live on in reruns, in fan memories, and in the countless storylines that made viewers laugh, cry, and think. The tragedy of her exit is not that it happened, but that it happened in such a painful way. It could have been a celebration of a career, a graceful farewell. Instead, it is marked by hurt words that should never have been spoken. That is the wound fans and Grahn alike will carry as this chapter closes. And yet, soap operas themselves are built on resilience. Characters are written out and brought back, actors leave and return, and storylines bend in unexpected directions. Some fans hold out hope that this is not truly the end, that perhaps one day Grahn might return, healed from the sting of what happened, to step back into Alexis's shoes. Stranger things have happened in daytime.